With most of the personnel heading to Townsville, some to Darwin as well, the issue of retention has come up. What's your view on that? Are you worried about the ability for Army to retain their best, given we are facing a very tight labour market and likely to over the next cycle when you're looking to make these changes? Are you worried about retaining the people?
Well, certainly recruitment and retention is a huge challenge within the Army, but across the Defence Force more generally. It is a focus of attention in the Defence Strategic Review and the government's response to it. We would see this as being part of the solution in relation to the more general recruitment and retention challenge. This is really going to make clear the exciting opportunities that do exist within Army, give people a much greater sense of clarity about the pathways that they can take. And that we see as something which will actually help recruitment and retention and ultimately start the pathway towards growing the Army, which is ultimately what we need to be doing.
And you're talking about this off the review, the Defence Strategic Review, the notion of projection. To those who've looked at the announcement and see the long-range missiles and those high-tech capability that you spoke about, it makes sense to have them near that industrial base, as you referred to earlier in our discussion. But what about the projection side of things? Does it make sense to have our long-range missiles so far, really on the wrong side of the continent, from any potential adversary?
Well, those capabilities are a deployable capability. So, I mean, you will be deploying them to parts of the country from which they will undertake their fires. It's not as though they're going to be firing the missiles from Adelaide. And these are highly deployable capabilities that can be deployed by air and the like. And so you can disperse them to the places around the continent that we need very quickly. But what's important is, given the high-tech nature of these capabilities, to have their base be close to where the science and the tech is. And that's really, well, that is Adelaide, but it's the opportunity for Adelaide to see that capability continue to evolve there.
So much is going to come down to our maritime capability as well. When do you receive the Naval Surface Fleet Review?
Well, I rather infamously and clearly put the moz on things earlier in the year that I said that we would receive this before Geelong won the grand final. But I assure you that has not given us the leave pass to wait for longer. It is my anticipation that we will receive this review tomorrow. In effect, that announcement when we made it was really seeking that we would get this review done by grand final day, and that's really been the demand, if you like, that we've placed on the reviewers. We've been working closely with them, and they are on time in terms of the work that they've done, so we will receive this tomorrow. And from there, the government will take a bit of time to consider its response to the review. It's worth understanding that this review is really looking forward in terms of our surface fleet over the next 10, 20 years and beyond. So we do have a couple of months or a few months to look at this properly and make sure that we respond. Our anticipation is that we will have a formal response to this in the early part of next year. But it really is one of the key parts of the overall reassessment of our Defence Force, which has begun with the Defence Strategic Review that we announced earlier in the year.
Finally, as the most senior federal Labor politician from Victoria, it's the beginning of a new era. Jacinta Allen, Ben Carroll, the deputy from the right faction, he's the Deputy Premier. Is this in part what we've seen the last 24 hours, the Labor caucus in Victoria saying we've had enough of the autocratic ways of Daniel Andrews and starting to push back and saying you've got to share this around a bit, it can't be so centrally controlled?
Oh no, look, firstly, I think Dan Andrews has done a remarkable job as the Premier of Victoria over the last 9 years. He's won 3 elections. He leaves the party with a very solid parliamentary majority. He leaves on his own terms, on a high. I mean, Dan Andrews' career has been colossal, and he really is a giant. And I think, leading us through the pandemic, but also the big build, which is transforming Victoria as we speak, we'll see every Victorian really benefit from the legacy of that. Jacinta Allen, Ben Carroll are two people I've known for decades now, and they are fine representatives of the Labor Party. You're right in saying it will certainly be a new era. I think Jacinta Allen is going to be a fantastic Premier for our state, and I'm really looking forward with a sense of excitement to what she will bring to the role. And every new leader has their own take on the role that they play, and we will see that with Jacinta. But I think what we'll also see through both Jacinta and Ben's leadership is a continuation of a really solid state government, which has benefited Victorians so much over the course of the last 9 years.
Deputy Prime Minister Richard Marles joining me from Townsville. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Kieran.